Welcome to the Spiritual Warrior Coach Podcast, a place where healing meets intuition and true transformation begins from within. I'm your host, Barbara Savin, author, energy healing specialist, and spiritual life coach. For over 35 years, I've guided thousands of souls to protect their energy, trust their intuition, and step into their most empowered selves. This podcast is your sanctuary, a sacred space where we explore life's real challenges through spiritual solutions. Whether you are an empath, a healer, a seeker, or simply someone ready to reclaim your peace and your power, you belong here. Together, we'll share heartfelt conversations that awaken the inner warrior within you, that timeless part of your spirit that is strong, wise, and deeply connected to your purpose. So take a breath, settle in, and know that you are not alone on this journey. You are loved, you are supported, and you are more powerful than you've ever been told. Now let's rise together and join me as your host. So thank you for joining me today, and welcome to the Spiritual Warrior Coach Podcast. I'm your host, Barbara Savin, here to help you reclaim your power, your energy, and your authentic self. And today, it is such a blessing to share this sacred space with my very special guest. His wisdom, his light, and his energy are all gifts to all of us. So, welcome, Dr. Jamel. How are you?
Hey, Barbara, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And thank you for the warm intro. Like I told you before we started recording, and I feel it right now, just your energy is wonderful. And I feel
Thank
very
you.
welcomed and at ease.
Well, thank you. That's the whole purpose of this. So let me share some information and introduce you to my listeners. Dr. Trammell, he is the alchemical architect of human transformation. He is a trusted advisor to leaders, champions, and high performers who want to break free from invisible mental, emotional, and energetic blocks. And as an international teacher of spiritual self mastery, he is also a naturopathic physician, energy healer, and transformational coach. And he helps clients collapse time, achieving 10-year goals in as little as 10 months. Boy, we have to talk about that. And Dr. Jamel is also the host of the Transformation Starts Today podcast. And he also helps provide clean water to over 1 million people worldwide. Wow, that's a lot of things you do and incredible. I don't know where to begin here. Well, I I know that you work with, world champion athletes, you work with best-selling authors and even billionaires. So how did you actually get into this work and what makes your approach, unique compared to traditional coaching or therapy?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the introduction. And
You're
I'll give
welcome.
like a big picture answer and then we can hone it in as it best makes sense. So let's see, how did I get into it? I'll give you the short version to a longer story. Side
Mhm.
note, I was talking to a friend of mine the other day and it was great. He said, short story long instead of long story short. And I was like, oh, I'm gotta strap in for this. I'll give you the short version. 14 years old, I got inspired to start looking into nutrition because I joined the track and field team as a runner. I was sick all the time. I was never getting better. And after almost a year of going to practice 5, 6 days a week, it didn't really make sense to me what was going on. And one day my intuition kicked in, and I hadn't really related to my intuition in a way that, in my opinion, like served me up until that point. And I never really listened to it. And it just came through very clearly, and it said, it's your diet. Looking back now in hindsight, worst diet of any human being I've ever met. But I survived somehow. So I was
Mhm.
eating these things and I was performing really poorly. Made some overnight changes after reading some books and listening to certain doctors online. And I stopped getting sick within a few weeks. I started to perform a lot better over the course of a year or two, significantly improved as an athlete. And I felt so much healthier. And people started asking me, what are you doing? I noticed this,
Mhm.
I noticed this, I noticed that. Sometimes it'd be like classmates of mine at 14, but sometimes it was I came from a very big I come from a very big family, many of whom are medical doctors, and they would be talking to me and they would say, "Oh, what are you up to?" And here I am at 14 and this person's in their 50s and they're the head of internal medicine at a hospital or something.
Mm-hmm.
I would think, oh, they're a doctor, they'll get it. And I would just start sharing, but I go deep into things when I'm passionate about it. And so I was sharing the biochemistry and the biophysics and all these things of all these aspects of health and healing. And they would look at me like I had five heads. And they would say, where did you learn this? And in my head, I'm thinking, oh, I want to be a doctor when I get older. I'm getting a head start. They all already know this stuff. And a lot of them, they didn't.
They
And
don't.
so they started asking me questions. Oh, let's say you had a patient who had this problem. What would you do? And a little bit naive in hindsight, but I also was very enthusiastic. And I would say, oh, I would do these five things and they'd be completely fixed. Problem solved. And months would go by, and many of these doctors would come back to me and they would say, I told my patient to do those things that you suggested, and they lost weight, they got off their meds, and they're doing so much better. And that was a wake-up call for me because
Mm-hmm.
up until that point, I was learning that stuff for me because I was sick all the time, so I didn't want to feel that way anymore. But this was the first time I was hearing like the information I was passing on to others was helping them.
Working. Mm-hmm.
And then people started coming to me in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and they'd have different medical conditions. And I was just sharing freely the things that I was learning online from different teachers of mine, and they started getting better. And that consistently sparked, excuse me, this obsession with supporting people with their well-being. And then at 15 years old, I continued the process. And I thought about what are the other areas of a really fulfilling life? I have spent all this time studying health at this point. What else is there? And then I thought, well, relationships. And I did the same thing where I just kind of obsess, I go deep into something and I pick it apart however I can. And so I found some of the top marriage therapists and dating coaches in the world, and I bought their CDs, their books, their DVDs, and I just studied them. And I started studying communication and what was the difference that made the difference. And at 15, same kind of idea. I'd be around a lot of people, often decades older than me, and they'd be sharing about their life and they'd say, "What are you up to?" And I would enthusiastically share about what I was learning. And they would say, "Oh, my wife and I, or my girlfriend, my boyfriend, my whatever, we're having some issues." And I would start, "What would you do if you did this?" And I would start helping. And then sometimes I would mediate. And then people would tell me that, a couple years later, "We didn't get a divorce because of what you helped us with."
Did.
And at 15, it was mind-blowing because just like with health, I was initially learning it for me. I'd never asked somebody out before. I was terrified. Didn't have the confidence and like I wanted to learn it all. And so I'm learning it for me, but I'm helping other people with it, and that felt really good. And then that intuition kicked back in one day and it said really specific. Go on YouTube and type in motivation 2005. And I was just like, okay. And so I typed it in and I get these like montage motivational clips. And it was Tony Robbins and Les Brown and Brian Tracy and all these people I'd never heard of. And it's got some motivational music in the background, and you just hear them like teaching to an audience and doing all these amazing things. And I was just mesmerized. I'd never heard anybody speak like that. I'd never heard people help people like that. And I'm seeing Tony Robbins in front of, 10,000 people, and somebody stood up, and in 40 minutes he helped them with something that they were seeing a therapist for 20 years to no avail. And I thought, how the heck did he do that?
Mm-hmm.
And I learned the foundation of what he did was something called neuro-linguistic programming or NLP. So I did the same thing and I bought all the books I could find and watched all the videos and I started studying NLP to understand how the mind worked. And so now at 15, I'd studied a lot of
A lot.
nutrition, of, any type of holistic healing, the relationship side of it, and then more mindset, helping people get over limiting beliefs and different challenges in that way. That continued. And then at 19 years old, well, 17 years old, I started studying the world religions, and I've been studying those ever since. I'm 35 currently, and just diving into each of them and trying to find the essence of them and finding that which unifies all of them and connecting to that for me in a way that allowed me and still does allow me to just connect with any person on the planet, whether they have a religion, they don't, whether they consider themselves more spiritual, regardless. Um, it's been really beautiful. And then 19 years old is where my whole life changed. As I told you before we started recording, I went to school at Fordham University in the Bronx for my undergraduate. And in my second year, I was a part of a pre-med group. And it was a Tuesday, and they said to me, "Hey, every year we have to go to the capital of the state, which is Albany, to fight to keep our funding. You're one of the students getting benefit from the program. Would you mind like coming?" And I said, "Oh, when is it?" "We leave Friday morning, we come back Sunday night." And I thought, "Yeah, I'm free. I'll be there." And then the intuition kicked in. And all day it was whispering, "Something's not right. Don't go."
Oh,
And as most of us do, I ignored it. And then Wednesday, it got louder. "Something's not right. Don't go." And I kept ignoring it. And then Thursday, we leave tomorrow morning. Thursday, "Something's not right. Don't go." And it's yelling at me. And I thought, okay, I can't keep ignoring this. And so I sent a message and I got out of it. Friday came and went, Saturday came and went, and the regular days. And I thought, oh, I guess that was nothing. And I missed out on that opportunity. And then Sunday morning changed my whole life. I woke up, and shortly after, minutes after I woke up, my father had a brain aneurysm. He was behind a locked door. I broke the door to get him out. And if I wasn't home, he would have died.
oh, wow.
And next thing you know, we're in the hospital. He's in a 4-hour brain surgery. We're being told by the neurosurgeon it was the worst aneurysm he'd ever seen, survival chance less than 5%. And then if he did survive, he'd likely be in a coma and never wake up. 4 hours went by, he survived. He was in a coma. I walked into the room and I was told that he's in this hypercritical state. He could die at any moment. And as a result, there I was essentially waiting for him to die. And in that moment, I felt massive amounts of regret. And the regret came from this space of knowing I had unintentionally taken my father for granted, that I didn't know him the way that I could have, and that I never really prioritized getting to know him, man to man, soul to soul. What are the lessons he could teach me? My priorities at the time was track and field and video games and movies and my friends, and not, I was 19, he was 49 at the time. And I felt like I messed up and I blew it, and I wasn't going to have that opportunity to quote unquote make it right. And I was very fortunate that he survived for 3 years before he did ultimately pass, and he was in a coma for several months. And it was some of the hardest, periods of me and my family's lives. And I took 3 years off to be one of his primary caregivers. And I got to spend 10 to 15 hours a day with him, and we did everything together. And I had some of my highest highs and my lowest lows. And in the low points, he was prone to seizures after that. Some of them were very violent, and he almost died in my arms a couple hundred times. But he also forgot who I was at it for a period of time.
Mm.
But I had some of my highest highs as well, and my prayers were answered, and he became one of my best friends, and I really got to get to know him. And in the 3 years, to bring it home, there were lessons that I learned that completely transformed the way that I live my life and are the foundation of pretty much everything that I do. Yeah, I started to realize that when I took my dad into bed, he always needed somebody with him. And when he went to sleep and I walked out of the room, the thought crossed my mind, what if that was the last time that I'd see my dad? Because when he had the brain aneurysm, last time I saw him was the night before and he was fine. And when I
Wow.
woke up, he was behind that locked door. And so what if this was the last time I was going to see him? And I realized that every day that I get to be with him is a gift and is a miracle and it's not promised.
Hmm.
And there I was, in a way, without realizing it, kind of waiting for him to go back to the way he was before and not realizing that who he is right now, right in front of me, is also beautiful. And I'm missing it because I'm caught up in a story that he should be some way that he's not.
Yeah, exactly.
And I find that we often do that without meaning to. And so when I started to prioritize today as much as possible, and then I realized, as obvious as it might sound now, in the moment it wasn't obvious to me. Well, this might be the last day I see my dad, but it could be the last day I see my mom. It could be the
Hmm.
last day I see my sister. It could be my last day. And I don't know.
Yeah, we
And
don't.
so if I asked everybody listening, how much time do you have left? We all have the same answer. I don't know. And now the question becomes, if you think of it as an hourglass gets turned over when you're born, and everybody has different amounts of sand at the top. And then the question is, how much sand do you have left? And the answer is, I don't know. And then the question becomes, is however you're spending your current sand, moment to moment to moment, worth it? And very often the answer is no, but because we haven't stopped and slowed down to evaluate, we're just wasting sand. And so throughout the 3 years taking care of my dad,
Wow.
I'm known for my hugs. And one of my cousins, love her dearly. And she gave me one of the best compliments of my life. I gave her a hug and she said, I love your hugs. Every time you hug me, I feel like you're never going to see me again. And it really hit me right in the heart. I started tearing up because I was going for that, but I didn't put words to it like that because this could be the end. And so if this is my last podcast, I'm going to give it everything I've got. If this is my last interaction with a human being, I want it to be as beautiful as possible. And in the 3 years, I learned a lot just about myself and about life. And I started to really focus on living as fully as I knew how to. After the 3 years, my dad passed away, and I was at his wake, and over 7,000 people came.
Wow.
I shook every single person's hand. My dad was a family practice physician, and almost everyone said, Your dad saved my life. And I was simultaneously humbled by the impact that he had. He passed at 52. But I was also made aware in that moment of a realization that I'd been playing small, that I was afraid of rejection, that I was robbing the world of who I could be, and I was dimming my shine because what if you didn't approve? Or what if you didn't like me?
Mhm.
And as a result of that, I was holding back. And one of my favorite words is enthusiasm, which is a Greek word. It comes from antetheos or entheos, and it means the God within. And when you radiate enthusiastically, you're radiating out what I'm calling that divine spark that is you.
Wow.
And most of us, I find, wear a mask. And the mask is saying, who do I need to be for you to love me, accept me, praise me, make me normal, popular, whatever you're going for. But the thing is, even when you think you win that game, you lose because people don't know you, they know your mask. And the mask isn't you, and at some level you know that. And so the only long-term fulfilling strategy is take the mask off. And for many of us, that's terrifying. And that's a big aspect of the work I do. And after my dad's passing, I stayed home with family for a bit, went to medical school in Arizona, naturopathic medical school. I spent 5 years over there and got exposed to my, whole next level of my soul's curriculum, and that was beautiful. Then I got involved in energy healing, and I went through all the levels of Reiki and completed my Reiki master teacher training and everything. And then I went to Hawaii and I got initiated into an unbroken lineage of 121 generations. And it's been absolutely incredible. And seeing the healings that I've been blessed to facilitate, as well as the mental and emotional breakthroughs with my clients, whether it be on the relationship side, the business side, the health side, it's truly incredible and a gift, to be a part of it. And so that's the big picture of how I got involved in the work. And forgive me, I don't remember the second story.
That's
Oh,
unbelievable. So yeah, it's amazing how that voiceless voice speaks to us, and sometimes we listen, sometimes we don't. So had you not, your father would have passed away then.
whole different life.
And so that's why it kept on really pushing at you. Yeah, I get the same thing also. Like the podcasts, for instance, now. I I I took maybe an 8 month break from it. And I kept on hearing, you need to do the podcast again. You need to do the podcast again. And I said, well, how can I do the podcast and still see my clients? You'll find the time. You need to get people need to hear what other people's lives and what they're doing. And so that's why I decided now. I went on Podpitch and put in all my information and said, please get me guests. Boy, did they get me guests. I'm booked until March of next year.
That's
But
amazing.
this is what, when you have that calling, you must fulfill it, because then it's all the coulda, shoulda, wouldas. And I know in my heart, I mean, I mentioned to you that I just turned 77 in September, and I say, all right, the hourglass. Hopefully I have a lot more sand left, but I don't know. But for my time here on Earth, this is important for me to have people on this show so that other people can hear and maybe then connect to everyone. So we do things not just for us. We do things to be of service to others. And I feel in
Absolutely.
my heart that's the ultimate when you can put yourself out there, not be afraid, and just be of service and do the best that you can do, for others. It's so important.
Absolutely.
So, so let me ask you, wow, that was an incredible story. I could just be listening for hours right now. Um, you described yourself as the it's alchemical architect of human transformation. Can you let me know what exactly does that mean?
Yeah.
And in your practice, what actually does the transformation look like?
Yeah, I'd be happy to share that. Thank you. And I just I want to acknowledge you for something. And for our listeners, take this as an acknowledgement for you as well. But given that I can see, Barbara, the way you listen is truly beautiful. I feel your spirit, I feel your heart, I feel your presence, the eye contact, the enthusiasm. And that's a gift that you give me and everyone else who has the privilege of being heard by you. And for our listeners, you can listen that way as well. And there's people in your world that will be positively impacted by that. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much for that.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
beautiful. I appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Thank you. And so for me, what the alchemical architect means, I see it as the fusion of two worlds. It's ancient wisdom meets modern mastery. It's the intersection of high performance and healing. When I think of alchemy, alchemy is the inner science of transformation. And when I think of architecture, it's the outer art of creation. And when I partner with my clients, we work on both. We heal and we shift the inner landscape, the inner world, so that their outer reality shifts to manifest what it is they want most. And when I think about the transformations, my clients come to me for a variety of reasons. Sometimes they've got some type of medical condition that other doctors haven't been able to help with, and I can contribute to whatever their medical team is doing from an energy healing perspective. I've gotten the privilege of supporting people with cancer and autoimmune disease and different conditions, both in person and remotely, no matter where they are in the world. That's been beautiful. From the business side, somebody comes to me and they may say, I really want to expand. I want to grow. In the bio that you read, collapse time. Somebody says, this is my goal. And I say, how long do you think that'll take? And they'll tell me 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20, whatever the amount of time is. And I'll say, you open to that happening faster. And often they haven't thought about that. And they'll say, well, yeah, like how much faster do you think it could happen? Because I've seen people do 10-year goals in less than a year with our work.
Wow.
There's these performance blocks that I find emotionally, mentally, energetically, typically in the form of suppressed emotions and limiting beliefs that the person has about themselves, their ability to earn, their worthiness to receive, all these kind of things, almost all of which are unconscious and the person's not aware that they have them. But they've been driving their life since they were a kid. And
Hmm.
so I'll give you an example. A gentleman came to me, I'll give you two examples if that's okay because it'll answer your question. A gentleman came to me and he's a real estate broker. And he said to me, my goal is I want to be the number one real estate broker in the country. And I said, beautiful goal. Can you tell me why? And why do you want that? And he shared. And I could just feel there's something deeper. And I just kept saying, got it. Thank you for sharing. Go deeper. Why that? And I said that like 10 times. And after like the last time I asked him, he started to cry. And this is in our first conversation. We're not even working together yet. And he starts to cry. And I say to him, would you mind, not would you mind, would you like to share with me what it is that's coming up for you? And he goes, I just realized if I become number one, maybe my father will finally tell me he loves me. And it just hit him that his entire life, everything that he's been doing from a performance perspective, this guy's this high achieving person, was all about getting his father's approval. Because when he was a kid, his younger sister, who was 3 years younger, in his words, was daddy's little princess and had to do nothing to get the love and the attention. She was perfect as she was. But from his paradigm, he had to be a straight A student and a star athlete just to get good job.
Hmm.
So he linked up and associated his performance with his worthiness, with his lovability, his output, his achievement with his worthiness. And so here he is decades later in his 40s, and that's what's driving him. He had no idea. And so then it's like, well, what if we can get that love from your dad now? and then help you go after what you want. But now you're going after what you want from a space of sufficiency. You're not going after what you want from deficiency.
Hmm.
A different gentleman who comes to mind when he came to me, he was an amazing business guy in the real estate world, and he was negotiating with some of the top companies in the world. He could pretty much get anything he wanted. But at home, in his personal life, he couldn't enforce a boundary. He got taken advantage of. He got walked all over. So it was a very interesting contrast that in business,
It's
incredible.
fine.
In his personal life, everything was like a wreck. And he tells me that his relationship with his wife of like 10, 20 years, basically non-existent, no passion. His relationship with his kids, very distant. He had crippling social anxiety. And whenever he would go to a company barbecue or a company event or a holiday party, he'd either be in the corner and try to get out as soon as he could, not talk to anybody, or he would just try to not go and find a way to get out of it. And when I work with people, we often begin with this deeper dive. It's about a 8 to 15 hour process that
Wow.
takes place over the course of a week or two. And we unravel and release all of the emotional, mental traumas, the limiting beliefs, everything the person's ever held, whether they're conscious of it or not, and we free them from it. And so we finished the process on a Friday, and he hired me. This is like 2023. So I think it was around November, December. So he had his holiday party on Saturday. And I remember I get a message from him and he calls me Doc and he goes, Doc, something was different all day today and I couldn't put my finger on it. And then I realized I've been the life of the party all day and I've had zero anxiety and everyone's around me and I'm dancing and I'm talking to people and I feel so comfortable. And he's like, it's a miracle. And then we kept working. And then 6 weeks later, he tells me, I've heard I love you more from my wife and kids in the last 6 weeks than I have in the last 6 years. And then we kept working together. His business is taking off. And then he goes, my wife just sent me this message. And it's the most, he sent me a screenshot. It's the most like loving, intimate text message of just trust. And I want to be with you and all these things. And he goes, I've never gotten anything remotely close to this.
Wow.
And then the following year, New Year's Eve, his wife said, thank you for the best year of my life. I can't wait for next year. And he's just sending me these messages talking about how transformed his relationship with his wife
Relationship.
and children has become, but also with himself. He now is able to stand in his power and force his boundaries because everything that was holding him back were these things from the past. He had a very rough relationship with his mother growing up, and that was kind of responsible for the majority of it. And then the following year, his business exploded in the best possible way and things took off for him. And so when I work with people, we identify what are all the blocks that are holding
Hmm.
you back and keeping you stuck, and let's release those. Where are you not honoring commitment? Where are you out of integrity with yourself and others? What are all, let's say, the key distinctions that you're not aware of and you're not living by that are creating an unworkability in your life? If you don't have the results that you want at some level, things aren't working for you. And that's not an accident, it's an effect. It's a consequence of whatever went into it.
Whatever it is. Hmm.
Okay. And so most of the time, it's just people are unaware of it. And so in our work, I get to wear many hats. I get to be the coach. I get to facilitate the healing. I get to be I'm not a therapist, but I get to be the practical psychologist. And I get to show up in a way to
Uh-huh.
really guide my clients towards creating the life that they want. And whenever I have the privilege of doing that, it's a beautiful gift to both of us.
Well, the thing is, most people actually do not understand what is actually holding them back. And many a times it's things that we've been through from the past. And I always say, if you're going to hold on to the past, you'll never be able to walk into the now.
Yes.
So it's important, and the boundaries. My famous, quote to everybody when they come see me is, it's okay to say no, and no can be is a complete sentence. You do not have to make an excuse or have anything thereafter. If you just cannot do it, just don't do it. But for a lot of reason, I think, and you probably feel this also with some of your clients, that they feel like guilty, they feel shameful, just saying no to somebody. Why do you think most people feel that way?
What I have found is that for the people who you said no is a complete sentence. For many people, because of the way they were conditioned,
Mm-hmm.
no for them is a bad word.
Mm-hmm.
And so no was something that when you were a child and somebody asked you to do something, usually a parent, and depending on where somebody comes from, if they're depending on the parenting style, if you said no as a child, that was usually met with pain. It could have been met with physical, like a hit or something. It
Mm-hmm.
also could have been met with a perceived loss of love. So children will perceive things in a way that is typically not the way adults mean it. But the challenge is it's still the way it was perceived. So there you were 7, and your mom walked up with a lollipop and gave it to your younger sibling and didn't give it to you. And you took that to mean I'm not good enough and I'm not
Mm-hmm.
lovable and I'm not worthy and my needs don't matter. And that's been with you your whole life. Not realizing your mom thought she had 2 lollipops, and after she gave the first one, she realized she only had one. And she felt really bad about that, but she loves and adores you. And it's like, but as a kid, you don't think that way. So
No, we don't.
this idea that no, if I say no, maybe I get hit, maybe there's a verbal type of abuse,
Consequence.
maybe
Mm-hmm.
there's a felt sense of I disappointed like my caregiver, for a
Mm-hmm.
child, love is like oxygen. Attention is oxygen. And so the love, the attention, the validation, the affection, things of that nature, this is our oxygen. And so how do you get that? You be the quote unquote good boy or the good girl. You do that, you get it by pleasing the people around you. And so that's often the formula that people run. All behavior, I often tell people, one of my quotes is, all behavior makes perfect sense given the thinking you have in the moment that appears real to you. And so when you realize that in the moment, oh, when I did that thing, I got pain. Just like, the stovetop is burning red, but you've never experienced it before and you touch it, and now
Mm-hmm.
you've burned your hand, you're probably not going to do it again because that color and that sensation as I approach it of heat indicates don't touch. In that same kind of way, oh, I said no, and I got a certain reaction of what I perceive to be disappointment, anger, frustration, and then maybe there was a felt experience of I felt kind of I may not have had the words for it, but it's like I feel the energy change in the
Mm-hmm.
dynamic of the relationship. I feel that you were all bubbly and happy, and then I said this, and now all of a sudden you seem really distant and not really wanting to talk to me. And so I think most of us learn at some way or another that no is a bad word. So we build up this people-pleasing type of persona because we want to be liked and we want to be included and we want basically pleasure and not pain. And so I think that's the foundation for so many people of why they're hesitant to say no. Because right now if you had the opportunity to say no to somebody who was close to you, who was asking you to do something, you might say, well, it's just not a fit for me and I can't do it right now. And I love and
Mm-hmm.
appreciate the person. Thank you for the invitation. The answer is no. And that's it. But that's a more mature, let's say, way of being with it because most people, it's like, well, if I say no, they're going to be mad at me. And if I say no, they might take A, B, and C away, or I
Exactly.
might miss out on a certain opportunity. And at an extreme, this is more a comment somebody makes when they're younger, but it's like they might not want to be my friend anymore. And we relate to it in this exchange that if I don't basically give, give, give and say yes all the time, you won't approve of me or you won't want to be near me, with me, around me, etc. So I think that's the foundation. And you talk about no is a complete sentence. And I find that what gets us in trouble so often is we say no when we mean yes, and we
Mm-hmm.
say yes when we
When
mean
we
no.
know. Mm-hmm.
And the only reason we do that is because either we're afraid of disappointing, we're afraid of hurting somebody's feelings, we don't want to lose the relationship, and we perceive it to be that if we say no, that somehow that's going to get punished.
Do you
When
feel
in
it's the other
reality,
person that, oh, I'm sorry. Do you feel that it's the other person's challenges that make us feel that guilt inside? That it's really not ours because we're saying no?
well, no, so what I would say is If we're feeling it, it's our stuff.
Okay.
And so if I feel hesitation or any type of, let's say, resistance to saying no to your request, that's a me thing. Now, you might have your stuff around no and you really want me to say yes. But if I am fully comfortable with my no, I can say no, hopefully in a loving, respectful way
Hmm.
that you will receive as well as possible. Ultimately, I can't control how you receive it, but I can control how I say it. And at that point, I can put this in the greatest light possible for you to receive it. But very often, it's not very often, always, if it's coming up for you, it's your stuff. And so
Right.
one of my mentors shared a line. I was at one of his workshops and I loved it. He said, if you ask me to do something, and if me saying no changes the way you think about me, it wasn't an invitation. How did he say it? It wasn't an invitation. It was it's funny, like it's like the main word. It'll um it'll come back. It's something like it wasn't an invitation, it was an expectation. It was something like
Hmm.
if you ask me to do something, if I say, hey, Barbara, we're all going to dinner on Thursday, we'd love to have you. Do you want to come? And if you go, oh no, thank you, like I don't eat that kind of food, or you might say, hey, I have other plans that day. I appreciate the invitation. Oh, okay, maybe next time. Because it was a genuine invitation, and
Right.
a genuine invitation honors yes and no.
Hmm.
But the moment, oh, I remember, if me saying no to your invitation changes the way you think about me, it wasn't an invitation, it was an obligation.
Exactly.
And so the moment, if I were to say, hey, we're going to dinner, you should come with us, and then you say, oh, no, thank you. And if I go, oh, you don't like us anymore, and I get an attitude and I do all this, that means that I wasn't really asking. I was kind of trying to force it, but I was verbalizing it in a way that sounded nice.
Hmm.
And so when we can truly honor no for us, we can honor somebody else's no too. And it goes both ways. If you honor their no, then you can honor your own. If
Your
I may
own.
take it one
Mm.
step further, I often will equate it to relationships. And I say, imagine somebody's single. And I say, imagine you're walking through the city. I'm from New York and you are as well.
Hmm.
Let's imagine you're walking through the middle of Manhattan. There's all these people, you know, and you spend all day. And so maybe you walk by a couple 100,000 people that day. And let's say you look at all of them. And I say, 99% of these people you don't find attractive. Is that okay? And you're probably going to say, well, yeah. And I say, why? And you might say, well, because, there's some people I'm attracted to and there's some people that I'm not. And it's something personal, like I don't know them, but I just, I don't feel it to go talk to them. Got it. So is it okay when you're one of those people that somebody else is walking by and they're not attracted
They're
to
not
you?
attracted. Hmm.
But the thing is, you're attracted to them. And the thing is, but they're not attracted to you. And if it's okay for someone to really be attracted to you, but you don't feel it, and you want the ability to say no, thank you, without them getting hurt, without them taking it personally. You want that ability to say, hey, I appreciate the compliment. I appreciate the flattery. I appreciate your courage to approach. I'm not interested. And I know, given the way you approached me, like your person's out there, you're going to find him or her, some version of that,
Hmm.
versus the person gets really upset by it. And so just like you want the ability to say no, thank you when it's not aligned, you give other people that same courtesy. And when you're willing to honor your no, you'll honor theirs. And when you're willing to honor their no, you're more likely to honor yours. It goes both ways.
Oh,
But
without
that's
a
why I
doubt.
think for
Hmm.
most people, no is a challenging experience because we associate yes meaning good and no meaning
Meaning
bad.
bad. Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, boundaries are important.
Oh, yeah.
Very, and unfortunately, uh, again, people feel guilty setting a boundary, and they shouldn't. Because
Yeah.
if you're not able to do something, it's okay to not be able to, because you
And
have other
think,
things that you on your plate. I always say, think before you say yes
yeah.
to make sure that you're able to do it. But if you say yes and then you change your mind, you're disappointing that person. So it's important to really think before you react, I want to say.
Yeah. And if you say yes, and you don't change your mind, but you meant no,
But you meant no.
then what's going to happen is you're likely going to build resentment,
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to say this, some version of the following. It's like, I can't believe this person's making me do that. Not realizing nobody forced you to say
Nobody.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Like you are the one who agreed to this, and that person has no idea that you meant no.
Exactly.
And so, what if we could play in the world of, there's a Eleanor Roosevelt quote. I'm going to paraphrase it because the first part I don't remember, but it's basically like, do whatever you were going to do already because those who mind don't matter and those who matter don't mind. So that
Mm-hmm.
idea that if somebody is going to really mind that your authentic no is a no,
Mm-hmm.
that's probably not somebody that you're wanting to spend a lot of time with,
Yeah, exactly.
you know? And so, and if you can honor that, there's people who will honor your no and honor your yes, and they're waiting for you. But it's like there's like a Zen Buddhist perspective. It's like a cup is best filled empty.
Mm-hmm.
Because if a cup is filled already, it doesn't really serve the purpose of a cup anymore in the sense of you can't put anything new into it. And so
Uh-huh.
in that same way, if your life is so filled with what you're calling obligations that you said yes to when you meant no, now you don't have any room to fill your calendar with the things you're actually a genuine
Wanting
yes to.
to. Mm-hmm.
And then you say, why is
It's
life so hard?
it's
Because
a
you're making it hard.
we create such problems for ourselves. But we're
Yeah.
human, so I guess it's okay.
Yeah. And the beauty is I look at every moment, if we're open to it, every moment can be your teacher. Every time you say yes or no, and then you feel something in your body, contraction, expansion, etc. These are all teachers. They're all pointing you
Mhm.
towards your truth. They're pointing you towards what's real for you. Depending on how much noise you've got going on, how
Going
many
on your head.
thoughts are playing in the head, all the distractions, you may or may not notice. Just like in my story, intuition often it whispers first and then it gradually gets louder. But if you're really distracted, you miss the whisper. And so, in that same kind of way, if you can slow down, honor yourself, be in as much integrity with you as possible, you save yourself a lot of unnecessary pain and heartache and all these kind of things.
Boy, that is so true. Let me tell you. I didn't listen to my intuition about 15 years ago. No, it was 10 years ago. And I kept on hearing Barbara stop walking and texting. And then, long story short, but I did not listen. I ended up falling over a cement slab um, on my face, crushed my nose, bruises everywhere, ended up in the hospital. It was not good. So
Wow.
from that moment forward, I will always listen, no matter how tiny that is. I listen because I said, all right, I don't want to go through this again. I knew I should have listened, but I didn't. So, we do things, unfortunately, that if we don't listen to that voiceless voice that does speak to us all the time, we can definitely, without a doubt, get into trouble. And so it's so important to just step back and say, all right, I know you're talking to me, just like with I'll give you another example. Um, the name of my podcast, the Spiritual Warrior Coach podcast. I was originally going to name it Motivate Your Life podcast, the same as my website. And I'm sitting here and I heard, Barbara, no, that's not a good name. And I said, well, do you have another name for me then? And I heard the Spiritual Warrior Coach podcast. And I chuckled and I said, all right, do you really think that this name is going to be available? Right. And I heard them, I just like somebody was talking to me, said, just look. And I looked, and lo and behold, the name was available. And then I sat back and I said, I'm sorry, I won't question you no more. We have a tendency to do that. And they give us messages all the time. We don't listen for some reason.
Yeah.
We just
Yeah.
don't listen. So, it's I listen. And when they mentioned to me now to get back into this, without a doubt, I said, okay, I will do the podcasts again. And I'm so happy I started it again because I mean, beautiful people like yourself, And then I learn from all this, and then I have my clients and everybody else that listens to this. They're now learning from what my guests have to say. It's so important. It gives everybody the ability to hear from a different perspective.
Yeah, if I may just share something that you talked about, where you said, we don't listen. And the beauty of every moment is it's a fresh start. And so for the listeners, regardless of what your physical age is, regardless of how long you haven't listened, how frequently you haven't listened, how long you've been behaving a certain way, doing something, whatever it might be, not doing something, the moment you're aware, I'd prefer to act this way. The moment you're aware, I'm going to listen deeper, with intuition, whatever that might be. You will begin shifting your world and living a different life. Every moment is a rebirth. Every moment is a new opportunity to create yourself anew. And you get to play in that world of either living intentionally, consciously, and deliberately, three ways of saying in my worldview the same thing, where you're consciously creating moment to moment who you be, or you can unconsciously, unintentionally walk through life and you keep repeating, let's say, the ways of being of the past. Now, the word identity comes from a Latin word that means repeated being. So people think, I have there's a talk I gave recently, and I felt inspired in the moment to share this. And I said, who here would like to know one of the most dangerous phrases in the human language? And everyone's like, yeah.
Yeah, yes.
And I'd say, this is just the way that I am. Because that phrase implies that what you are is a static, unchanging thing. You put yourself in a box and you are committed to staying in that box.
Mhm.
The challenge is that identity means repeated being. So who are you repeatedly being? And you've repeatedly been it for so long that you forgot
Who you
that
are.
you've been
Mhm.
pretending.
Mhm.
So it's almost like you're an actor playing a character, and then you've played it for so long you forgot that you're the character, and now you just genuinely think you're the character.
Mhm.
And I remember, I think it was I heard this somewhere, I forgot where, but it was fun and it'll work here. It's like imagine you played Batman. And imagine I played Batman on a movie set and you were the Joker, right? The listener. You're the Joker, I'm Batman. And we're in the middle of the scene. And then the director yells, cut, and everyone like completely goes out of character and they just start doing their thing. But I'm just kind of pacing back and forth and I look so worried. And you walk up to me. You got the face paint on, you're the Joker. You walk up to me, but your name's John. Your name's Mary. Your name's Barbara. And you walk up and you go, Jamil, you okay? And I'm ignoring you. And you go, Jamil, Jamil. And I'm ignoring you. And then you go, Bruce. And I turn around and I go, yeah. And
Mhm.
then you go, what's wrong? And he goes, I mean, the Joker's gonna destroy, you're gonna destroy the city. I gotta save the people. Like, what am I gonna do? And you're sitting there going, what are you talking about? Like,
Talking
this is
about.
make believe. This isn't real. We're pretending. But I got so caught up, I lost myself. And now I'm stressing out over things that are not real. In that same way, though, that's what we do as humans.
That's what we do.
We're the soul we're the spiritual being having a human experience. We forgot that we're the spiritual being. We fully identify with the human experience. We fully identify with our thoughts and our beliefs that are temporary, transitory, and are not based in any fact. They're a facet, they're a perspective, but they're not real. And because we fully bought into it, that becomes our
Our
reality.
reality.
And
Mhm.
then we scare ourselves and we tell stories, just like the little kid when they were, 7, and I said no, and mom was disappointed, and that means she doesn't love me. Or my old client, it's like, hey, I got to be number one, otherwise I don't get love from dad. And then you live your whole life
That way. Mhm.
as a foundational belief that the whole house of cards gets built on top of. And everyone listening, you have some of these. What it might be one, it might be 10, it could be more. And when you let those go, when you can see clearly, you go, oh, that's why I behave that way. And there's never blame, shame, guilt, or fault about it. It's
Exactly.
just an awareness of I didn't know what I didn't know. And me at 7, me at 4, me at 12 made meaning out of my life circumstances. And I've been holding it ever since. And here I am decades later. I've been conditioned to behave a certain way, not because I'm a bad person, not because something's wrong with me. It's just because of the conditioning.
Hmm.
And the good news is moment to moment, excuse me, I can recondition myself. I can reparent myself. I can release what no longer serves and
Serves
step
you.
into a new way of being. And that to me is the most hopeful thing, that you're never trapped in some box unless you let
Allow it
yourself.
to be. Hmm.
There's a Sufi poet named Rumi from about 800 years ago or so. And Rumi says, why do you remain in prison when the door is wide open? The door is open, but it's like the door is behind you. And you've got your hands on the bars looking this way, like away from the door.
Hmm.
And the person's out there. They're looking at you. And you're going, please help. And the person goes, the door is open.
Yeah, it's
But rather
there.
than turn around and look, you go, you think I wouldn't have checked the door? And then you say, it can't be that easy. And I'm like, the door is open. I see it. No, it can't. No, it's not. And it's like we're so resistant to turning and looking. We're so resistant to just seeing ourselves fully because we're convinced at the deepest level. This is just the people I've worked with, but I've seen so many people around the world. We're convinced that I'm not good enough, I don't matter, I'm not worthy, I'm not lovable, I'm not important. And again, we're not usually conscious of it, but it's like that's the core wound. That's like it's like Voldemort in Harry Potter. It's like he who shall not be named. Like you don't talk about that.
Hmm.
And once you can bring it to the surface and release it, the freedom that you experience on the other side of that, the relationship transformation, the business transformation, the financial transformation, it is truly incredible. But again, it starts with a moment to moment awareness and a decision. I don't want to live my life the way I've been living it. And in whatever the way that I want to change, one of my mentors, my coach, he says change doesn't take time, it takes courage.
Yes, yes, it
Because the
does.
courage to make a new decision, the courage to live differently when you don't have it all figured out, when you don't know exactly how it's going to work, but if I keep doing what I'm doing, I'm going to keep getting more of the same, and I don't like this. So I can make the same decision and get the same result, or I can make a new decision, not know exactly how it's going to pan out,
Hmm.
but it's likely going to be better than this.
Than what it is.
And then we
But
might have fear, but we lean in.
well, yeah, well, it's uncom change is very uncomfortable because
Mhm.
again, it's the unknown, and we get stuck in that loop that all the what ifs. What if it doesn't work out? Well, if it doesn't work out, so pick yourself up and try again. It's like anything else.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, people are in that mindset that they're not able to do something. But I always say you can do anything you set your mind to do. The thing is just to make a small step and just start it. Just do
Yeah.
it.
That's it.
Just do it. Just do it.
I love the perspective. It's like compounding interest. If you imagine it like a graph,
Mm-hmm.
the first couple years, the first several years, you don't see much at all. It might even go down, but you don't see much.
Exactly.
But over time, it starts
Uh-huh.
to be the hockey stick and it starts to go up in a really big way. If you were 1%, if you said, I'm going to be 1% more courageous today than I was yesterday. Now, that isn't going to look like a big thing
It is.
relatively.
Mm-hmm.
But 1% more courage today might be you're going to ask for what you actually want one additional time, right? But you ask that enough times and you're going to get a yes at some point. So now you start getting yeses, and those yeses lead to a whole different life. And 1% over time compounds. So if I say I'm going to be 1% more courageous, more bold, more understanding, more loving, more compassionate, more forgiving to myself and others, whatever it might be, if you're a salesperson as an example, which side note, like we all are, but if you're going to be in like a literal sales job and you're going to say, all right, I'm going to make one more call. That literally can be the difference between the best month in business you've ever had and not,
Mm-hmm.
because you made one more call. I'm going to ask one more time. Maybe someone's listening, they're on like a dating app and they're going, I'm never getting a good one. you're only one match away from the love of your life. And so what if the next one's the one? And it's like you never know. Like you said, it's one more time. If you fall, you get up, and ideally you learn from it. And if you learn from it, you're not getting up as the same version of you who fell the first time. You're getting up
Exactly.
as a wiser, smarter, more grounded, deeper perspective version of you. That version of you will be able to make a better decision going forward. If you fall again, celebrate that because you're about
Yeah.
to stand up as a wiser version of you. But you can only do that so many times before you don't fall as much anymore.
Yeah, because
In the
you
beginning,
learn.
you're learning how to walk, you keep falling.
Hmm.
At some point, you fall less. And then at some point, you stop falling. And then, you fall very, very rarely. But it's just like that's just how it works. And we don't typically, I remember hearing Tony Robbins when I was 14 or 15, when I got into him, and he would say, how long would you give the average child before you say, who's learning how to walk, hey, I don't think this walking thing, I don't think you're cut out for it. And it's like you wouldn't ever say that. You would say, no, no, my kid's gonna walk. And as a result of that, almost all the kids walk
Hmm.
because they crawl and stumble and stand and fall until. And as a result, they get it. But we forget that, and then we try twice or once, and then we say, oh, maybe I'm not cut out for this. So like whatever the thing is, what if you tried 1,000 times?
Exactly.
Like one of my mentors, Byron Katie, talks about you can have anything you want if you're willing to ask 1,000 people for it. And I want you to think about that. If you genuinely wanted something really badly and you were willing to ask 1,000 people, ideally people who could actually get it for you, there is something that if I'm asking somebody to deliver something that they can't, it's not going to work. But if I
Mhm.
if I ask 1,000 people who can get me a result, and I'm learning from each ask, and I'm genuine about it, what's the chances that I get 1,000 no's in a row? It's basically going to be zero. Someone is going to say yes. Now, it might be the first person, it might be the 1,000th person, and anywhere in between. But I don't know who it's going to be. And so all I can control is my behavior. All I can control is asking. All I can control is one more time, one more try. And if I talk myself out of it, then I'm robbing that person of a relationship because maybe they would have been my partner. I'm robbing people of relief because maybe I could have helped them in a professional sense. I'm robbing this person of a friend. I'm robbing that team of a member or a leader. Like you're robbing the world unintentionally of who you could be
Hmm.
by being afraid to put yourself out there and to ask. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but I don't want to
Yeah.
monopolize the
Yeah,
conversation.
but I'm sure there are. That's another podcast episode. I definitely have to get you on another time because there's so much more to talk about. Um, and I know we're probably out of time now.
I have time, by the way, if you'd
Oh,
like
you
to keep
do?
going.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
a question: what is one of the simplest practice that my listeners can start today to move toward, um, like having more clarity, more alignment, more fulfillment?
Hmm. Let me just be with that for a moment. So more clarity, more alignment, more fulfillment, a practice that they could do every day, if possible. Either anyone who's able to walk, walk. And if you're not able to walk, maybe you have a wheelchair, or even if you're like, you can do this even if you're in bed, but assuming you're able to get outside once a day, go for a walk. Don't bring your phone. Don't bring any kind of technology. Be in nature to the best of your ability. Like, even if you're in a big city, there's probably a park. But like, if you can go for a walk, get around nature and just get quiet. Focus on your breathing. Focus on being really present. There's something I call a wealth walk. It's an exercise I learned from a mentor of mine. Here's how it would work. You go out on a walk, no phone, 20 minutes or so, and all you're able to do is just observe
Yes.
all of the wealth, all of the abundance that you see. That doesn't necessarily, it could mean, but it doesn't necessarily mean, oh yeah, my neighbor's got a big house or something. It's not that. When I do it, I go out on a walk and I hear the birds singing and
Yes.
I say, nature's giving me a free concert right now. And then I see the sun and it's like hitting my skin, or it could be rain, it could be snow. Regardless, there's something I can appreciate about that. I can feel it, like my senses work. My eyes work. I can smell, I can taste, like my senses, I can walk. And I start feeling wealthy. I start feeling abundant. I keep going for my walk and I start thinking about what are some of the things I'm proud of myself for today, this week, this month, the last year. How are there aspects of my life right now that were a dream a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and they're actually in my life right now, and I'm complaining. And then I can slow down and realize I'm actually living the dream in
Hmm.
some capacity already. It might not be fully flushed out, but there's things in my life right now that were a dream, and I lost track of that. And so here I am walking around now going, I'm feeling all this gratitude in my heart for how proud of me I am. And then maybe there's people in my life that I love and that I care about, and they're alive, and I can have some immense gratitude for that, feel wealth for that, because wealth has nothing to do with money. Wealth
Exactly.
is a state of being, it's a
Hmm.
state of mind. Money can be a part of a wealthy lifestyle. I remember hearing Bob Marley was interviewed, and the interviewer said to him, "Are you a rich man?" And it's a YouTube video, you can find it. And Bob Marley goes, "What do you mean by rich?" And the guy says, "Do you have a lot of money?" He's just direct. And
Very direct.
Bob Marley
Uh-huh.
looks at him and he goes, "Is that what it means to be rich?" And then he says, "I have other kinds of riches."
Hmm.
And it's this idea that by feeling wealthy, in this example, I'm on my walk, I'm taking in nature, I'm slowing down, I'm being present. The intuition starts to come in. It was always there, but I start to notice it. And I'm starting to now get, this is the answer to your question. I start to get these inner, let's say, pulls. And the pull might be something like, hey, that would be really exciting. You might want to do that thing. Hey, Barbara, don't name your podcast this, name it that. It could be that. And there might be, hey, that thing that you're doing, I think it's time to stop that. Or it's, hey, I don't think this relationship's right for us. Or it's, hey, that person you've been wanting to ask out, now's the time. If they say yes, beautiful. If they say no, at least you know.
Hmm.
But like there's some answers that are going to come to you. There will be some reflection. How are you living your life? And I said, every moment can be a teacher. Some of you will go out on this walk with no phone and your mind is going to be racing and you're going to have such a hard time just being present and
Being
noticing.
present.
But that's not a bad thing. There's no judgment on that. It's just an awareness that there's some work to do. Because when you are able to go out and have no thought and just be present in the moment and just take life in as objectively as you're able to, it is incredible what begins to arise. There's a level of peace that you'll experience. There's a level of abundance that you'll experience. There's a level of clarity that will come to you that may not be normally present when you're feeling more distracted. And so, just like people will often say, you have a big decision to make and you're not really sure what to do, and they say, sleep on it.
Hmm.
Well, why? Because when you sleep on it, when you wake up, you're no longer in the state you were in when you went to sleep. In a
Exactly.
similar way, go for a walk is also a really beautiful piece of advice because you're moving your body, you're getting the blood flowing, you're changing your state. Because you're right now, as an example, Barbara and I are sitting down in a room. If you're spiraling in a negative state right now, sitting down in a room surrounded by all these things that you say are overwhelming you, you really think you're going to make the best decision in the next 5 minutes? But if you go for a walk and none of those things are
Right.
around you and you change your environment and you don't bring your phone and you just breathe, you're going to get your mind taken off things. And that's just like when you're in the shower or you're on vacation and like the eureka moment comes, the idea, the aha, same kind of thing. And so I think going for that wealth walk and treat your walk like a meditation. Be present. Be
Yeah.
present. Notice what arises without judgment. Don't cling to it. Let it be there. And over time, you just become more and more available to the moment, more and more available to what arises. And in that, it's like the quote you shared earlier. I'll paraphrase it. Something like if you keep holding on to the past, you don't walk into the now. You said something like that earlier.
Hmm.
Same kind of idea. You go on that walk, you don't bring your phone. What's right in front of you? A tree, a house, a car, the road, a park. But
Right.
what are you experiencing? Your financial worries, your fight that you had with your spouse, something happening at work, some drama over there in your life, none of which are happening on this walk.
That moment. Hmm.
You're just reliving an old story, which is why the walk is becoming your guru. The walk is becoming your teacher. The walk is showing you where you're not free. The walk is showing you where you're not loving. The walk is showing you where you're in judgment and resistance. And if you honor that, you will never miss a walk for the rest of your life and you'll prioritize these and it will be incredible. And for some people, it's fairly easy to do. And for some people, it's one of the hardest things. But I find it to be very rewarding. And that would be my recommendation.
Wow, thank you. Yeah, I do it all the time. So,
Yeah.
and it clears my mind. And I do leave the phone because the phone is just distraction, and I choose no distractions. So, we have to do what we feel in our hearts that is best for us. But oh wow, I can listen to you all day. uh, well, where can my listeners get in touch with you? And I know you have a podcast also.
Yeah.
Can you
Same
give
thing here.
us your information?
Yeah, yeah, I'd be happy to. And if I could just share one more thing,
Sure. Yes.
just for it goes with the walk, but just like many people have equated their net worth with their self-worth, their ability to produce result with a certain level of, let's say, worthiness. We've often been conditioned in the society that we're in, at least in more of a Western society, I can't speak to the other ones, but to be very busy and to always, in a way, be on the go. And so there's a modern way of saying it's like a hustle culture, but you could call it whatever you want. But this idea that just like many people think no is a bad word, many people think slow down is a bad phrase,
Hmm.
you
It's
know,
not.
but the thing is, I live by one of many phrases I live by is slow down to speed up. You slow down to check in. How am I feeling right now about my life? What's my current thought about the way my life is unfolded and the trajectory it's headed in? Am I happy? Am I fulfilled? Does my life feel meaningful to me? It's not somebody else's standard.
Mhm.
And if I were to continue down the road that I'm going down metaphorically or literally, will that lead me, for those of you on your walk, will that lead me down the path that I want to go on? And there's going to be a point where you realize the answer is no. And that's where change is required. And you mentioned earlier, most people don't like change. In Buddhism, there's this perspective of impermanence that in the physical life, the only constant is change. Everything is temporary, transitory, and impermanent. Anything that's born dies, anything that starts ends. And so as human beings, we have a tendency to cling, excuse me, and we attach to life as it is a certain way that we deem good. And we say, this is great, and I try to keep it as similar or the same as possible. And if anything rocks that boat or changes, it needs to be stopped, destroyed, taken out because it's threatening to the
Mhm.
status quo. But the thing is that you're not really living when you're playing on defense. So there's an old expression, are you playing to win or are you playing not to lose?
Mhm.
If you're playing not to lose, you're always on defense. You're never scoring, but you can't win with just defense. And so
Exactly.
you end up living your life in this really reactionary way. But if you slow down, and for people listening who are identifying as like a high performing person, that might feel really hard. And if you slow down, like take a break, take a vacation, take a nap, for some people, that's like the hardest thing in the world to do. But if you can slow down, you'll be able to listen and you'll be able to check in with yourself and see, is the way I'm living my life, running my business, leading my team, is it working? Is it the way I'm with my family? Is it working? That client I mentioned who got himself back, his wife back, his kids back, and his business took off. He was living his life in such a way in his 50s that he finally realized it's not working. And it's having the courage to do something different. But
Yes.
it's only because he slowed down to double check. And so you go for that walk, coupled with create some space in your calendar. You can call it white space, you can call it whatever you want, where actually schedule it. Don't leave it blank, because if you leave
Hmm.
it blank, you're probably going to fill it. Schedule an hour, schedule 30 minutes, schedule 2 hours in the middle of the day or at some point, and call it me time.
Yes.
Call it meeting with God. Call it whatever you want to call it. And you don't do anything in that time that you don't feel inspired to do. So maybe you go for a walk, maybe you meditate, maybe you take a nap, maybe you dance, like you do something. But it's time to think. It's time to like unravel. It's time to let go and release. It's time to reflect. These are things that are going to shift your entire life. Often I hear people say something to the extent of it feels like something's missing, from my life. And I'll tell them, I can tell you exactly what's missing from your life. And they'll look at me like, oh my God, like, tell me, like, I've been wanting to know forever. And I'll say, what's missing from your life is you.
Yes.
And they're sometimes confused by that. You're missing from your life because you're wearing a mask and you're pretending to be someone that you're not. You're living an inauthentic existence because you're not living your version of life. You're living the life that you think's expected of you. And you're saying yes when you mean no and no when you mean yes. And you're not fulfilled and happy more than likely. And you think this is just the way it is. And you think this is just the way I am. Two very dangerous statements. And
Yes.
it doesn't need to be that way.
No.
But you're not going to notice that unless you slow down. And for many of us, slowing down is scary because when you slow down and when you quiet your mind, all of these things come up and they come up to be addressed. But the thing is, that can be scary if you're not ready for that. So it starts to come up and you go, whoa, I don't like this. Like, what am I feeling? What are these thoughts? Like, this is uncomfortable. And then we suppress, because that's most of us have been conditioned to do that. So we suppress it back down with any kind of distractions, any type of vices, whatever that might be. And it numbs us, it dulls us, it distracts us, and there we are back on the same path. And then eventually the distractions don't work anymore. And then we look for bigger distractions.
Hmm.
That works for a period of time. And then they don't work anymore. But there's an old quote, I forgot who said it, but it's something like learn from the mistakes of others because you're never going to live long enough to make them all yourself.
Yeah, it's
You
true.
know, you don't need
Uh-huh.
to wait until the pain gets that bad.
Hmm.
This conversation Barbara and I are having, this could be a wake-up call for you. You could learn from this and you could get help. And so before I answer the question you asked and share how we could connect, anything you'd like to share or ask as a result of that?
Oof. I probably need a session with you. Yeah, for myself, sometimes things feel a lot of very uncomfortable, but I still do it
Yeah.
because I know if I let that feeling overtake me, I'll never be able to move forward.
Yeah.
And so I for myself have that ability to say no. I'm not going. I know it feels really lousy sometimes, but just do it. Just do
Yeah.
it. Step out of that comfort zone.
If I could just point out for our listeners, just like Barbara has that ability, so do you.
Hmm.
And notice that Barbara works with people, as do I, and we're both humans, and we have our moments as well. And so we're not special, we're not different than you, we're not better than you. We just have a different perspective and a different
Hmm.
way of living at times. And you're capable of this way of being too. And if it resonates, every moment's a new moment. You can
Yes.
literally choose it. I'd love to close with a quote by Alan Watts. I've loved learning from that man. And I believe he was like a 1940s, 1950s, or 30s, like philosopher in the United States. And he says, you are under no obligation to be the same person you were 5 minutes ago.
That's yes.
And I love that quote so much.
I do too right now.
Yeah. And so
Uh-huh.
For anyone who's been listening and their perspective is, I've got some goals and some dreams, and I'd love to create those faster in my business, in my family, in my relationship, or I want to get into one. The reason why it's taking so long is you've got some unconscious blocks that are slowing you down. You release those, what you want is going to happen a lot faster. Or there's a problem that you're experiencing in one or more areas of your life, and you want that solved because not solving it is expensive. Not solving it is costing you in many ways beyond just money.
Oh,
And
yeah,
so if
sure.
that's you, would love to have a conversation. My website is jamilsayegh.com. It's just my first and last name. And I'm sure I can give you the link and you can put it in the show notes or something.
Yeah, I will.
JamilSayegh.com. And on the website, you can read about the work. You can see a bunch of testimonials from people, very likely just like you, who've gone through the business problem, the relationship problem, etc. And you see what becomes possible on the other side of it. You can schedule a call. Let's have a conversation. There's no charge for it. And let's just explore. There's no obligation on the call. There's not a hard sell. There's a genuine, I only work with people I feel aligned with. I only work with people I feel it's a good fit. So I
Hmm.
don't, and so we're going to have a conversation human to human. We're going to connect and we're going to find out what's your goals and dreams? What's life all about for you? What is the challenge right now? And would you like my help with it? And if it makes sense, we'll talk. And so that's the idea. You could book it there. My podcast is Transformation Starts Today, which Barbara mentioned. Similar to what you shared, I've had it for about almost 4 years now, I think 3.5 years. And truly a beautiful experience to interview people, to connect, to have deep conversations. And people who've listened to it have just told me conversations with people from all walks of life. And we go to depths, and every episode I've probably listened to 3 to 5 times. And I've gotten so much value from my own interviews. And so I've really
Hmm.
loved learning from all my guests, and I'm
I do
sure our
too.
listeners will as well. And beyond that, I have something called the Healing Circle. And so there's the
Mm.
coaching side of my work, and then there's the healing side of my work. And the Healing Circle is a group. I have two of them. One meets Monday nights from 7 to 9 Eastern, and one meets on Thursday afternoon from 12 to 2 Eastern. Two separate groups, but you can join either one. The first experience is free, so you get a taste of it. And for 2 hours, we dive deep into healing. I teach a few things. There's a community aspect, and then there's a healing experience. And there's people, even though it's over Zoom, chronic pain going away, mental and emotional experiences, releases, lightness, anxiety and depression lifting, and it's really beautiful. And so that's a group way of experiencing this work. And if a free experience of that is interesting to you, same website, jamilsayegh.com. You go to the services tab, it's called the Healing Circle. You can register for that free experience there. And I think that's it for me for now.
Oh, gee, thank you so much. I'm like in awe of you right now. Well, you have so much to share. I have to have you on again if you would like,
That'd be
because
good.
there's a lot we probably need to even dive a little deeper. But wow,
Oh,
I thank you so much. This has been a very uh, inspirational time, I want to say. I really thank you. Um, Thank you for sharing your story with us today. It was unbelievable. I cannot wait to put this podcast interview out in the world. So thank you.
thank you very
Um,
much. And
I'm
if I
deeply, yeah, I'm deeply grateful, for the insights and the inspiration that you brought, into this beautiful sacred space. Again, thank you. And I guess I need to thank my listeners also, my dear listeners, for opening your hearts and joining us on this journey. And just remember, you are powerful, you are loved, and your light truly matters more than you'll ever know. So until next time, keep shining, keep believing in yourself, and know that you are never alone on this path. So have a beautiful week filled with love and with light. Love, Barbara.